Still on the global education-related matters, the UK has been a long-standing partner to the government of Rwanda in the education sector, not only through training over 2,600 head teachers to effectively deliver on their school plans, but also investing in the current program called the Learn for All program, worth 97.6 million euros that started from 2015 throughout to 2023, aiming to improve learning outcomes and equitable access to primary and secondary education for boys and girls in Rwanda. But COVID-19 pandemic has threatened the implementation of such collaborations, with physical classes largely suspended for close to 2 years now, not only in Rwanda but also across the world. Anna Wilson, Development Director at the British High Commission in Kigali, spoke to my colleague Athan Tashobya about the importance of the Global Partnership for Education Summit held in London towards creating safe learning environment for girls and boys during post-COVID-19 period.
We know COVID-19 pandemic has greatly hit the world, brought the world to its knees. But how bad has education been affected?
So the pandemic's had a really heavy effect on the education sector. At its height, 1.6 billion children were out of school around the world. And we know that even short interruptions in schooling can have a really long-lasting effect on the children who are out of school. So it's been really important that governments act swiftly and appropriately to respond to that. And the Global Education Summit comes at a critical moment, both to generate the resourcing that governments need to respond, but also the political will and commitment to ensure that every child benefits from a quality education.
This summit also pays great attention to girls' education. Mm-hmm. How timely is the Girls' Education Summit in increasing the girls' enrollment in schools in the post-COVID period?
So you're quite right, girls have been really badly affected by the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, girls were facing a crisis in education. So in sub-Saharan Africa, over 33 million girls were out of school. And then the pandemic's exacerbated obstacles that stand in the way of girls getting a quality education. So poverty's increased, gender-based violence, FGM, child marriage, all of these factors have been exacerbated by the pandemic. And that's why the summit comes at such a critical moment. We know that investing in girls and in girls' education is one of the smartest investments a country can make to reduce poverty, to build economies and to save lives. And so the summit will draw much needed attention on the issue of educating girls and generate much needed resourcing. What's really critical then is that countries take forward that commitment and implement appropriate inclusive policies. So it's really great that the Government of Rwanda have already committed to a girls' education policy, and the UK is really looking forward to working with government on making sure that's appropriate to all girls' needs.
Okay. The Global Partnership for Education, I understand, is going to allocate about $5 billion in the next 5 years to the effect of education. How will they ensure that the money reaches the intended communities, which is also the purpose, which is to improve education in 90 countries, mostly developing countries?
So the Global Partnership for Education is unique in that it's the only partnership fund dedicated to improving education and education delivery in low-income countries. And it's a partnership fund. It puts governments in the driving seat, and then it helps them deliver their national education strategies. So that's really important, because ultimately it's government's responsibility to ensure every child has appropriate education. That's also one of the reasons that we're pushing for substantial pledges of $5 billion over the next 5 years. We're also pushing for ambitious domestic financing commitments, so asking that every recipient country put themselves on a pathway to 20% of domestic financing towards education.
There's a consensus that COVID-19 pandemic has threatened exacerbated, if that's the word, education, especially in developing countries. How best can the global health crisis be fought to make sure that even the money that is actually intended to fight, to promote education actually yields results?
It's a really, really good point. The UK is clear that this virus won't be tackled until it's tackled everywhere. And that's why we've been at the forefront of putting money into the COVAX initiative to ensure that all countries have access to vaccines. So we put in £548 million last year. We also made vaccine access a key priority from our G7 presidency, and at the G7 Leaders Summit in June, leaders committed to vaccinating the world by the end of 2022, and so that meant commitments of 1 billion doses, including 100 million doses from the UK.
Okay, so what should a girl, or Rwandan school-going girl, or even a boy, I assume they will be supported in this program altogether. What should they expect from the Global Partnership for Education?
So we know education is a massive change enabler. It can really support livelihoods and it can really develop communities. A Rwandan girl should expect a quality education that's appropriate to her needs and enables her to thrive in the 21st century. And that's why the UK is so committed to working with the government, to working with the GPE, to ensure we improve the quality of education, to ensure we modernise education infrastructure, and ensure we focus on specific sectors and areas that are important now, such as STEM subjects.
Could this be yet another meeting where leaders meet and talk and probably have tete-a-tete on the sidelines, or you expect concrete actions from this meeting? If there are any, give us like 2.
So I'm expecting concrete commitments, so definitely those funding commitments we've discussed, also real political will behind taking this forward. And that's why the UK is so excited that the summit's happening and we'll get those global commitments. But just as importantly, we're really excited about the prospect to be taking this forward in partnership with others here in Rwanda to make sure that children can return to school when it's safe for them to do so, also to make sure they get access to remote learning as we go through the pandemic.
Anna Wilson, Development Director of British High Commission in Kigali. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.